Hi, it's Luce. Welcome back. We're part 6 of 30 in this journey of becoming a small business owner. If you're new to this channel, then my name's Luce. I'm a cake artist. I've been running my own business, my own small business, it's just me, for the past 4 years. And so I've committed to posting a video a day for 30 days, sharing my journey, experiences, exercises, tips, things that I've learnt over these past 4 years. So maybe it's useful to you. I can only share what I know in relation to my own business. It's not to say that it's right, it's advice. This is what I've done. Yesterday, we spent a long time talking about product, and I probably waffled on a bit. I'm a cake maker, okay? Today, we're going to spend some time looking at pricing. Product, price, place, promotion. These are 4 P's within what we call the marketing mix. These are fundamental columns that it's worth thinking about in relation to your customers. As I said, we did product yesterday, we're going to do pricing today. It can be a minefield. I spent a lot of time on the internet trying to find how to price my cakes. And honestly, I could not find a single point of reference that said, this is what you should do. So for me, it's been a bit of trial and error over time. But let's try and keep things simple. Where I started was, how much does it cost to produce the actual cake? So basic ingredients, eggs, butter, sugar. There was also an allowance for electric to run the mixer, the oven, the dishwasher, petrol for when I'm out delivering cakes, my hourly rate for doing the magic, but also a percentage for business profit that went to my business outside of what I was paying myself. Now, there are different ways of exploring this, and as I said, it will need to be a bit of time and effort. I hand paint cakes, so they take a long time. So I have to be considerate of what I think is realistic to pay for a cake. In fact, because of that, I actually set a minimum. Otherwise, there's a tipping point where a cake that you're going to eat becomes so disproportionate in terms of cost. You end up with a tiny cake that's going to cost you a fortune. So I set a limit on that. In terms of my hourly rate, I picked a figure that I was comfortable with. Now, it became apparent quite quickly that when I'm delivering cakes and my customers are saying to me, you're undercharging for what it is you do, listen to them. I've said, again, in other things and other videos, these little threads, these interactions with people, you never know what comes from a good conversation. I was introduced to a chap that has a much more business mind than I did, and we sat down and looked at, we were talking about pricing, and he was like, I think you're way undercharging. He said, if your customers are telling you that, well, then you definitely are. Why don't you do this? And I'm like, I didn't feel comfortable with it. And he's like, you won't know, Luce, unless you try. So I'm like, okay, I can always go back. Let's change the cost of my hourly rate then by X amount. And I'm nervous when somebody asked me for a quote and I went back to them for the first time at this new rate. I'm thinking, oh my God, they're gonna, yeah, that's fine, amazing, we're really excited for you to make our cake. Oh, well, so that was unexpected. So it's a case of trial and error. I can't give you a definitive cost. It's something to explore, but if you've got your basic cost to produce, you've allowed for all the other incrementals, you've allowed for business profit and your creative time, that's a good start. Doesn't mean to say that you need to stick with that price, but it's something that you can evolve over time as you learn what's acceptable. I mean, the cost, it's actually just cake. It's hand painted, you're going to eat it. How do you put a price on the memory or the experience when someone gets their cake and they're, I've said before, the centre of the universe moment? It's a special, whatever the special occasion is, and they're like, there it is, thank you. How do you put a price on that? I'm yet to work it out, but it is what it is so far, and it enables me to run a viable business. I'm still doing this 4 years on, so we're in a good place at the moment. There are some little nuances that you could explore and that I did in terms of perception of value. So things like 99p or 0.99 might perceived to be cheaper than £1. £4.99, £4.95 versus £5. Difference of a couple of pence, but the perception, we're crazy humans. We think things slightly differently. If you went to buy a car for 50 grand, 50,000, that's a big amount of money and it's a round number. Maybe there's room to negotiate versus a ticket that said £50,246 sounds more calculated down to the last kind of detail on the car. Don't know. Maybe something that you'd like to explore. There's a book I read called The Choice Factory by Richard Shotton that explores these behavioural economics, the psychology of how humans perceive things, but in relation to marketing. Really fascinating read. In fact, at my previous job, he came to do, he was part of a presentation I saw. He sent out an email before he came with a question. What we didn't know at the time was that this was priming. There were 2 separate questions that went out to the group. And when he came back in, he was asking, what do you think is the average cost of an apple or something? And you could see the answers in 2 separate categories based on the separate email that we both had. He was priming us with information that would influence our end, when he was presenting, what's the answer? Really fascinating. So if you want to explore things around value, pricing, and lots of other things, this book was, in fact, I've read it a couple of times. I quite often go back to it because, it's fascinating. I'm interested in that. But aside from anything, okay, when you're looking at pricing, don't think that you need to stick there. Don't underestimate, because I know everyone will, what your skills are actually worth to someone over and above the actual tangible product. The value that it brings to them. It's a really fascinating subject to explore, but also you need to make sure that your business is viable and profitable. And when I say allow a percentage of business profit outside of what you pay yourself, so when I need a new mixer or new tins for cakes, there's money in my business to reinvest in those things. We did that in 8 minutes. That's not bad. I hope that's useful. It's a tricky subject to cover. Anywho, I will see you all tomorrow. We'll talk about place. A little bit easier. Much love. Mwah.